going to give you an after-action report and a little bit of a discussion on gameplay for Field Commander Napoleon, the Napoleonic solitaire strategy game from Danverson Games or DVG Games. This came out in 2011. And why am I covering it today, or why did I decide to play this and then talk about it? Well, several reasons. Number one, I'm doing Napoleonic week this week and thought I would add this to the mix because it's one of my top Napoleonic solitaire games. I do have more than one, so so it's not the only one, but it's one of my top ones. And in fact, this is in the Field Commander series. This is my favorite one of the Field Commander series. I like this one best. Probably my second one is the Alexander. Third is Rommel. And fourth is Nimitz. I like Nimitz just because it's fourth doesn't mean I don't like it, but it's got a couple of issues with it. One, it's kind of outstays its welcome. It's a longish game, even if you just play a campaign, if you just play a scenario or a year. And then the original game didn't even have a campaign or have it all linked, and then the expansion does that. And the expansion also fixed some of the issues with it, but not completely. I still like it. It's still a playable game. But it takes a little bit of work, more so than the other ones in the series. Which brings me to another reason why I'm doing this today is that DVG is adding to the series, adding to the Field Commander or / Fleet Commander series with Field Commander Robert E. Lee. So they're going to the Civil War. And my understanding is that series will probably follow this, the Field Commander Napoleon, maybe closer than Rommel or Alexander. Both those are a little bit different than this series, than this game, the Napoleonic one. And I believe that they're going to pull some of the same features and mechanics from Napoleon and port them over into Robert E. Lee. I believe that's the case. So yet another reason to cover this now, because I think that is going on Kickstarter. So if you want to get an early taste of what Robert E. Lee might look like or what some of the gameplay is, then I imagine it's going to be different, and there's going to be different campaigns and different battles, but some of it might follow Field Commander Napoleon. So with that, what is my after-action report? Well, this is where I ended up. I did the 1800 scenario. Want to do something relatively quick, and these really don't take that long of time to play. The real crunch in this, or the time that the part of the game that takes up a little bit of time, is the battles, depending on if they're a big battle or a small battle. And we'll talk about that in a second here. But this was a relatively short a game going from May 15th to July 1st, so you only had a few turns here to play the game. And the way I ended up, I was my objectives in the 1800 scenario were Genoa, Marengo, Nice, Milan, and Savona. And those are the objectives out there, and you have to accomplish those before the end of the game. And if you accomplish them early, then you get more points. So here you get superior, so you get 30 points if you accomplish them by June. Is that 1st, I believe? And then if it's June 15th, then you only get 20 points. And if you do it by July 1st, you only get 10 points. I got the superior, so I got 30 points there by doing that. And you can do a campaign in this game. You can link all the scenarios together, and which are really a series of mini campaigns over the Napoleon's career, and you can link them all together and then add up all your points that you got from each of the scenarios to see kind of how you did overall. There's like an overall score there if you want to do it. This is solitaire. This is only solitaire. You're going to be picking out whatever scenario you want to play. In this case, they each have their own individual boards here, which I imagine that Robert E. Lee will have that as well for his various campaigns. But like here's this is the Prussian campaigns. So you've got 1806 and 1813. And so I have a mounted board for that. This was the Italian campaign. It has 1796 and 1800. There was the Third Coalition in Danube, 1805 and 1809. And again, all mounted boards. And so I would imagine, again, that Robert E. Lee is going to be that way as well. This was France, 1814 France in the 100 Days. So this is the culmination in Waterloo campaign. And again, these are campaigns. So they're much more, they're tactical, and there is a certain amount of operational. There is a supply in here. It's a little bit different than what you're probably used to. But so these are kind of operational. They are recreating whole campaigns. Here's the Russian campaign. And as I said, there's a lot of boards in here. That's another reason why I like this more than the others. There's much more content in this one. Here's the Peninsula campaign. So there's just a lot to sink your teeth into and play in 1798. And each one of these scenarios has some core mechanics that you're going to play, but then they're going to have some special rules like what are the objectives? Of course, what's the setup? That's going to be different for each one. But other than the setup and the any special rules or objectives, they play relatively the same way. So I ended up getting all my objectives by the right period, and the biggest battle was there was a relatively good sized battle in Marinigo. Boy, I'm butchering it today. It's been a long day. And in Savona, and then there was actually the final battle was in Genoa to take that over. So the Austrian forces actually did push into Nice, and I had to kind of fight to get that back. So that was the kind of the only setback in the game. Now, so did good. I mean, this is the best I've done in that scenario. I've played this scenario not very many times, just a few times, but this is the best I've done in that scenario. So how does this game generally play? Well, you're going to have your setup. You're going to have your objectives of of areas you probably need to take over. There are cities on the board, and sometimes there are cities that are not cities. Like in this scenario, Genoa is considered not a city. Mantua was considered not a city, so you don't get the effects of those. And those effects will affect the AI, how the opponent attacks you, and it'll also affect supply generally. So the way you play this game is you're going to go first. You're going to be able to move your units one area, your forces one area over. There'll be a chance to move them a second time at the end of the enemy's turn, and you can do that as a forced march. But you're going to pay supply, and this is where you keep track of your supply in the game. And supply not only helps you do forced marches, it also lets you buy, scouts, and scouts let you do several things, but one of the key things they do is let you re-roll on this fog of war. We'll talk about that in a second. And as I'm talking about gameplay, just let the little disclaimer here, don't play the game based on my rules or my explanation. Read the rule book and follow it, or there's a lot of playthroughs out there that are going to be much more comprehensive and better than mine. I just want to give you an overview of the gameplay, especially with Robert Lee coming out, because I imagine it's going to pull some similar aspects of that game in here, but I could be wrong. So you have a sequence of play to help you do that. So you advance the turn counter down here. You can move to an additional area. You can resolve battle. So any area that you move into, you're going to have a battle. And if you have, and on your counters, this is your initiative, and that top number is your initiative, or to activate it. And then you have the bottom number is its combat value. And if you get hit, then it goes to a lower combat value. And so so if you have combat value that's 3 times your opponent, so if I had like this is a 3 here, so if I had 9 units, 9 combat value go into that hex or that area, then I can envelop it, and so it automatically gets defeated. And so there was a few of those battles that I was able to get superior forces. And if you have 3 times, it's an automatic victory. You don't have to go to a battle. If you less than that, less than 3 times, then you go to the battle board, and that's really where this game, that's where the decisions are. That's where that's where most of the gameplay is. That's where most of the game of this game is on this battle board. And you're going to set up your forces. You can do 4 in the enemy approach, and then the rest go in reserve. And the same is true for your forces. And then you're going to advance them along this battle board and do attacks. I mean, you can do, artillery can attack more than one range, but most everything else is one range. So you have to be either in the same area or adjacent to it. And the way that you do that, the way you move up and down this battle board is through these orders. And these are the default orders if there are no orders for the units. But for you can draw, you can select whatever orders you want from this selection of different orders here, and or battle plans, I should say. These are called battle plans. I call them orders, but and they do different things. Volley, formation. Formation, you can change your formation because formations make a difference here. So if you're on this battle board here, if you want to be able to move and do actions or battle orders that allow you to move up and down, then you need to be in a column that allows you to, some of these orders are going to be dependent upon what formation you're in, and being in a column lets you move. That's natural, right? If you want to do like a fire order, well then being in a line, that's a line, that's going to be better for some of these orders, or required for some of these orders. So, changing formation might be one of the battle plans you put out because you want to get a unit into a different formation. So that's an interesting aspect, how they recreate the ability of lines and columns in this game. But you're going to get, and the number of these battle orders that you get is depending upon the scenario. Napoleon, if he's involved in the battle, and there's a counter for him in each of the areas, because this is about his, he's got his name on the box, so this is about him. So he gets 3 orders if he's in the battle. Otherwise, there's going to be a default order, and in this case, if there's no Napoleon, you get 1 order. So you're going to be able to choose one of these orders to put on the battle board. The enemy or your opponent gets they're going to have a set number, in this case 2 in this scenario, and they draw from this cup. And their orders are somewhat similar, but usually not as good as yours. They do some different things, and the AI is built into it. Sometimes they have orders or battle orders or battle plans that affect all their units, and some of them just affect certain units. And you get to choose where to put those battle plans based on kind of a hierarchy that's built into the rules. I mean, you pick the better unit and then keep going. So there is a little bit of gamesmanship there, that you can put battle plans on, like firing battle plans on units that are in column, so it will be ineffective, or put movement battle plans on ones that are in line, but there is a hierarchy in the book on in the rules on how you play that out. So this orders is really a lot of the game, and that's what I was saying earlier about the game really doesn't take that long. The moving units and cleanup phase is really doesn't take that much time, and there's still some decisions there, but the part of the game that does take some time is the battles. If you have a battle that has numerous units, let's say you have 10, 15 units, I mean that's pretty big. I didn't get one that big, but if you have a lot of units on this battle plan, it could take some time in laying out the battle plans or on this battle board, laying out the battle plans, resolving the different battle plans, resolving the orders, and figuring out what people are doing what. Plus, you're making decisions during that of, well, what do I want to do? How do I react to that? Who do I want to fire on? And how do I accomplish what I want? So that's where this game really lies, in these battle plans and enacting them on the or effectuating them on the battle board. Now, when you start off a battle, you have a whole different battle sequence here. You're going to roll for fog of war, and this is going to be good or bad for you. It's going to, if Napoleon's present, then you select an insight. Now, insights are better than battle plans. They are like some global type abilities that really can help sway the battle. So you like insights. And so getting some of these extra insights from these fog of war is pretty good. But you can get extra supply points. You can get an extra scout. You can move a force in there, but you can have bad stuff too, where they might add in an enemy reinforcement or an enemy garrison to the battle. And so there could be, the battle could actually change based on this fog of war. So you can use scouts to re-roll that and try to get a better result. But you're going to be, if you run out of scouts, you're going to be stuck with what you have there. Also, this battle, the fog of war is going to tell you how many battle turns there are. So you might be limited from anywhere from this. It looks like there's 5 down to 2 battle turns, and so if you're stuck with 2 battle turns, here's battle turns. This is to mark where the battle's at on the board. But if you're 2 battle turns, you have 2 turns to resolve your battle here. That's not a lot of time. So you usually want to have more time to try to accomplish your goals and effectuate your battle plans on a battle. And so that's going to make a difference. So, but if you have a lot of units on the board and you have like a 5-turn battle plan, that's gonna take some time. That takes more time than doing everything else during the turn. So, so you're gonna do an development check. So at any point during the battle, if you still have that 3 times combat value on the battle board, you're going to get an automatic victory. Now, the battle doesn't automatically end. The enemy units just start retreating, and you can start picking them off as it goes. But but you're going to win at that point. You can determine battle plan quantities. Again, there's a set number for the scenario, but the fog of war could add to that, or insights could add to that. Insights can actually add battle turns to it. You can make it longer if you want to. You can buy additional battle plans. The French can use supply to buy battle plans. You can select insight counters, and if you can actually select insight counters instead of using your battle plans. So let's say if I have 3 battle plans, because I have Napoleon, I might take 2 of those and use insight counters, and then only have 1 battle plan for my unit. And for every unit that doesn't have a battle plan, well, you just use these default ones here. You place French forces, and then you place the enemy forces. And again, that's somewhat regimented by, you can only have 4 in each of the approaches, and everybody else goes into the reserve. There's also some static forces like garrisons and like recruits and stuff like that will go, well, the recruits I think actually go into the regular thing, but garrisons, are kind of stay, and artillery kind of stays where it's at. And there's rules on that as well. Then you have your battle turns. You have insight activation, select and place French battle plans, draw and assign enemies. So you're going to place your battle plans before the enemy does it. So again, that's part of the fog of war, and that's part of, it keeps you on your toes. You have to react. You don't know what they're going to be doing, and so you've got to place your plans first, because again, this is solitaire. You resolve enemy battle plans, you resolve your battle plans, you do a route check, and then you advance the battle turn marker, and then again, that's all determined by the fog of war. So that's that. In a summary, that's the battle, and so that's where most of this game lies, is in these battle plans, both the enemies and yours, and then knowing when and what to put where and what unit to activate, and that's all going to change during the battle. So you really do get a feel for, there's really some decisions there, and you get somewhat of an abstract feel for Napoleonic warfare, because line and column makes a difference, the different types of battle plans to accent the different type of units, the different strengths of the units, and how you're trying to do things. I mean, it's a really interesting system there. And again, I expect, but I don't know for a fact, that something like that's probably going to be translated into Robert E. Lee. I would expect, but again, I do not know. So you'll do that, and then you go back to your sequence of play. You can do after you resolve battles, you do forced marches. That means you can move a unit to yet another area, but you have to pay a supply. And if you move into an area where there's an enemy, well, you're going to do the whole battle thing again. So that's where this game, the movement on the kind of the strategic board, it really doesn't take up that much time. You still got to make some decisions. What really happens is the battles and trying to maneuver yourself into a situation where you can just do that, envelop and just knock them out without having to go to that battle. Then you're going to do, so you do the force march, you resolve any battles that come from that. Then you do French resupply. And each of these different scenarios is going to have different resupply ways for you can get more resupply points. And a lot of times it's based on, like this, in this case, is based on French held cities. So again, these two are not cities, even though they look like it on the board. But these other ones that are cities, you're going to get supply based on that. Then it's the enemy's turn, and you have an enemy orders chart here, and you're going to roll on that and see what the enemy does. And so like a 10 there, and there's modifications based on how many supply points they have. So the more supply points they have, the more modifiers they're going to get on this chart, and they're going to do stuff at the bottom. The bottom stuff is usually bad for you. Like this 13 plus is advanced twice. So that unit or that group of units, the first thing you do is you're going to divide up the enemy forces into groups of 3. In this case, it says 3 forces. So you'll divide up into groups of 3, and then you'll roll for each one of those forces. And in that case, that one will advance twice based on, or 3 times if you're able to roll that. Is also going to spend those supply points, so the other units that it happens will not be able to do as much. But they can be anywhere from, this is going to move to an enemy-held objective. It could hold, it could random, and a random is you just determine a random number of the areas around it, and it moves to that area. It can move to a French-held objective. It could advance, which that means it just moves to the lowest. It moves to the next, to an area with the lowest French combat value. And again, that combat value is what's on the bottom. So anyway, the one thing I left out is activations. Like when you're in a battle, if you have an order, that says you don't have to activate, like it's automatic, like sometimes for cavalry, like a charge, it's automatic. You don't have to activate it. But sometimes in order to do what the thing says, if it's not automatic, you have to roll its activation. And there might be modifiers that help it out as well. So like this right here is an 8 activation on a 10-sided die. This thing's probably going to be easy to activate every time. But other ones that are like reduced here, this has a 4 activation. So this is going to be harder to make it do what you want to do. And if you misroll an activation, it doesn't do it. It just stays where it's at. So that's how that fits into the game there. So you'll do enemy orders. You'll resolve any battles where the enemy moves to. So if the enemy moves into areas where you're occupied, you're going to have battles there. So you go to the battle board, unless it's a 3 times type thing. And then you're going to do enemy resupply. And their resupply is based on different sets for each scenario. But usually like here you roll, and depending on what the roll is, like on a 1, they get 1 fortification. So a fortification goes on the board. And that will also be a static piece that pops up on the battle board, or it gets a garrison, or it gets a reinforcement, or it gets 3 supply points. That's the resupply for this scenario. And each one of the scenarios are a little bit different, okay? So that's the game. The only thing, I left out a lot, but one thing I did leave off the battle board is that at the end of the battle turns, you go to withdraw. So you're going to withdraw, and how the withdrawal done depends on what you roll here. So if you roll 1 to 2, you rejoin, so you keep the battle going. If you roll 3 to 5, enemy retreats. Well, that's good, because then they retreat, and they're going to retreat out of this area. You'll roll a random area where they retreat out of the battle area. 6 to 8 is really bad. That's French retreats. So that means you retreat out of that area. And if it's an area that you wanted to hold, well, then you've got a problem now. And then the last one is encamp, means that the units are going to stay there. So next turn, you're going to do battle again, unless because for movement purposes, you can move into an area that has an enemy, but you can't move out. So if you're in an area that's already with an enemy, you're kind of stuck there. So, but you can move units in there to try to help, relieve the siege or the battle, but you're not going to be able to move out. Anyway, I went through a lot there. Sorry for taking so much time on this, but I wanted to give just a kind of an overview of some of the gameplay for this, and I probably messed up some stuff, but that's what I do. Anyway, so that is a kind of a high-level overview of the gameplay of Field Commander Napoleon. This is how I ended up in this scenario. Each of these scenarios are different. As you see here, the 1796 scenario is got a different setup, of course. It uses the same map, but it's got a different setup. It's got different objectives, and it's got some different special rules for it. Now, the resupply and the enemy and the sequence of play and the enemy orders will be the same for this map, for both these scenarios. but that's not the same for every single one of the other ones there. So there you have it. That is Field Commander Napoleon. So if you, again, if you like Napoleonics and you want to play something solitaire, there's a lot of gameplay in this box, and you can work through each of the scenarios in sequential order, or you could just pull out a scenario like I just did and try it out, or you can try to string them all together as a campaign. So there's a lot of gameplay in this box, and again, I'm expecting, I don't know for sure, but I'm expecting that there's going to be some similar aspects in Robert E. Lee, Field Commander Robert E. Lee, that I think that's going to Kickstarter soon. So anyway, that's what I have for you today. Man, I went a lot over what I expected. This was a long after action, but this really kind of got more into the gameplay, and you kind of need to understand the gameplay to see how easy this plays. Again, the real decisions are on the battle board with the battle plans. The rest of this is just you're making strategic decisions, but usually they're not as tough as some of the stuff that goes on in the battle board. And what's left over after the battle is going to affect how you make decisions on the strategic board. Anyway, thank you for stopping by. Whew, I need to get something to drink. Take care. Thanks for watching.